Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Zach from the ZAP podcast. I have always wanted to start a podcast, but I never knew where to start or where to even begin. And then I stumbled across the Anchor app. I love the Anchor app because it's completely free and it has all the editing and uploading capabilities that you need right from your phone. So it's super easy and super user friendly. If you've always wanted to start a podcast, go download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. All right, let's get on to the episode.
All right, what's up, everyone? It's Zach, and today I'm here with a very special guest. I am here with Keith John, also known as Downtown Deuce. How are you doing today, man?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Of course, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. To everyone listening back home, Keith is a really awesome dude that I've been to get to know a bit. He's a musician, really focusing on kind of hip hop, pop music. His big hit that if you're from Michigan, like us, you might have heard of his song "Destination Restoration," which is a big hit with the Pistons community. It's actually a song that gets played at every Pistons home game. So that's a little bit about what Keith is up to. But do you mind kind of giving us a little background on who you are, what you're doing, all that good stuff?
For sure, man. Yeah. So, as you mentioned, I'm a huge Detroit Pistons fan. Been watching the Pistons since the Bad Boys days, late in the late '80s. Going into the '90s with the Teal years, and then into the 2000s with the Going to Work Pistons, the glory days, as it's referred to when they won the championship again. So I've been Pistons fans for a few decades. And so I'm also a musician. My grandfather actually, his name was Little Willie John. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1996. And so that's pretty much where my gift comes from. And then my uncle, his son, actually is a lead background vocalist for Stevie Wonder. So
Okay.
yeah, so I've been around music my whole life, been around artists, musicians, and things of that nature my whole life. So I figured why not combine the two, my two passions and
Yeah.
together and see if I can kind of create something unique and something special for the city that the city can really embrace, and really kind of use as inspiration.
Man, I love that. It sounds like you said, just so natural for you to take two things that you love. You always were around music growing up, and you always had that love for the Pistons. So, how can you blend that together and make it honestly kind of like you said, it's for the city and something that, we can all rally around and get behind, which I think is awesome.
Absolutely, bro. Yep.
So with the song that you have out there, Destination Restoration, like what was that process look like for you? Like how did you come up with the concept, or when it came to writing the song, like what was your inspiration behind it?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, I've been a huge Pistons fan for years, so I've kind of been able to gauge when the trajectory is going to be on the uptick.
Yeah,
Because every team goes, it's cyclical. Every team goes through highs and lows and highs and lows through each generation.
right.
And so, I've always kind of been able to tell, um, just with the nature of the team, when it looks as if they're going to have that level of success again, even when it hasn't happened yet. And so, with this new regime, I'm noticing that same trajectory, that same pendulum shift back into their direction. And so that got me excited. And it got a lot of people who I know are Pistons fans excited as well. And so I just thought, since I'm doing music anyway, why not come up with a Pistons record that will really resonate with the city? And so I actually have a recording studio that I record out of, which is actually where I work as a vocal producer and engineer. So it made it really easy for me to put together a project for the Pistons. And so when I decided to put it out, I put it out on all platforms, your Amazon Music or Apple Music, Spotify, Tidal, etc. And so when I released it, a day after I released it, I got a DM on Instagram from the lead DJ at Little Caesars Arena. Um, and he reached out. I previously had not known him, but he reached out to me the day after I released my record, and he just told me to send him the song because he wanted to play it at the arena. And obviously, that was music to my ears, no pun
Yeah.
intended. And so From there, yeah, he had me come to a game. He got me down to a game. And he kept texting me back and forth. He said, "All right, 5 minutes is gonna be on. Be ready, be ready." And next thing you know, it's playing. It's playing as Mason. You know, is bringing the team out
Yeah.
pregame warmups, and the song's playing. And just like that, the day after I released the record, it's playing LCS. So it was pretty surreal. It was kind of something on my bucket list that got checked off because it was something that I really would have liked to have accomplished, especially for those around me.
Yeah.
So it was really pretty cool. Now I'm working on another record for the Pistons. It's called Baton, and that record is basically really just focused on, like I mentioned, with the teams of old that have been successful, the Bad Boys Pistons in the 80s and 90s, and then the Going to Work Pistons in the 2000s. The baton was passed from one to another, and so now I
Mm-hmm.
feel that pendulum swift once again being passed from the last iteration of the Detroit Pistons to the team now. So that's what the theme of the next one is going to be. So that should be coming out either late this month or early next month. So hope you guys like that one as much as you like the Destination Restoration for sure.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, I've been, keeping up with your music and everything, and I've heard you kind of talk about you've been in the work, the new track Baton that you just mentioned, and I think that based on the reception that you got for Destination Restoration, I have no doubt that Baton's gonna live up to the hype and get everyone just as excited, and it's gonna be really cool to hear.
I appreciate it, bro, for sure. You've been
Of course.
supporting me, man, since day one. So I got a lot
Yeah,
of love
man.
for you.
Yeah, I'm glad to, man. It's just cool to, get to know your story and see what you're doing. And again, like you're doing it for the city and for, the Pistons that so many of us love. And the last the last maybe decade for Detroit Pistons fans have been a little tough. So it's nice to kind of get excited again. And I think that your music is definitely helping out with that.
Yeah, and that's really what it's about, man. It's the music part is great. The sports piece is great, but it's really just for my city. It's really for my people, on and off the basketball court. It's not the easiest thing sometimes. Being a Michigander,
Yeah.
we have so many things we have to deal with, as everyone does, right? But
Right.
for those who know what it's like to be here, it's not always the easiest thing. And so I just try to look for creative ways to just inspire and uplift. And, I feel all of us can do that in different ways. We all have many gifts. And one of mine just happens to be music. So
Yeah.
I said, why not put it to work and just see what I can do to just help those around me to kind of keep moving forward, keep pushing, and just continue to grow, and just have that drive to be better and to help one another. That's the most important thing. Help one another along the way. We're all going to have success, peaks and valleys, but just to be there for those that we care about and even those that we don't know, because you never know who you're going to affect in a negative or positive way just with your interaction with them. So that was really the inspiration behind this whole project. And I'm happy that it's being received the way that it has, for sure.
Man, I love that. And, kind of like what you're saying, to be positive and uplift others and, to be kind to others and just, help when you can. Like, has that attitude and mindset all something that has been within you, or is that something that like you've come to throughout the years? You're like, okay, like this is what's really important, or this is what really matters. Like, walk me through how that mindset kind of came to you.
Absolutely, bro. Yeah, I got to credit my parents, man. I mean, they've always been, I've always, when you're a kid, you're watching everything your parents do. They're superheroes, So
Hmm.
I always watched my parents very closely, just how they interacted with other people and how they would just help strangers, just whether it was, giving somebody, some food on the street who needed it, or just helping somebody on the side of the road who had a flat tire or whatever. I just always saw that with them when it came to other people, whether you know them or not. It's just the right thing to do. It's just to help others, because what would you want others to do if the shoe is on the other foot? So it's kind of who I am. It's kind of a knee-jerk reaction whenever I see somebody who needs something or is, in a situation where they need help, mentally or physically or spiritually or whatever it is, whatever the case may be. Always do right by others. It's just the right thing to do, and it's something that brings me joy. The old saying, it's better to give than to receive. That couldn't resonate anymore with me, because that's just a part of who I am, and I just really get a lot of joy, and I get a rise out of just being able to see someone's face when you're able to do just something little, because the little things go a long way. So it's always been a part of who I am. I can't help it.
That's awesome. I love that. And I think you brought up a good point of like a little goes a long way. And I think, when it comes to helping others or doing things for others, whether it's strangers, people that you're really close with and care about, I think sometimes people might think like we have to do this like grand gesture, this huge thing, but really it's just like those little things, like even as much as, holding the door open for someone at a restaurant or
For
asking,
sure.
someone how their day's going, like that can make a big difference. And like you said, you just never know how your actions or words can positively or negatively impact people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Like you mentioned, it's just one of those things where, if you're having a bad day, you don't want to make somebody else have a bad day because they received the energy that you projected upon them, even though you didn't mean to,
Right.
So you can kind of nip that in the bud and just put a smile on your face, and maybe you can help somebody else have a good day, just do something little.
Exactly. So, just hearing you talk and getting to know more about your mindset and everything, I would say that you definitely come across as a very positive and, motivational, inspirational, uplifting person. And that's your personality and that's just who you are. But like,
Mhm.
do you ever struggle with kind of like that positivity? Do you have those days still where you're just like, man, like today just is a terrible day. Like, I don't want to be positive. I just want to, chill at home and watch Pistons highlights all day.
Absolutely, man. We're all human. I think we all, we talked about it. Living here in Michigan, sometimes just the weather
Yeah.
can be a little bit depressing. The overcast. Not being able to see a blue sky sometimes for days or weeks in a row. So I think everybody goes through that, and I think that's the beautiful part about it is that we can all relate to each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have my days. I definitely have my days where you're not feeling the best physically, mentally, or you may get to a point where you're just working so hard that you kind of get burnt out,
Mm-hmm.
and that can affect and that domino effect with everything else that you have going on, or even those around you. So I just try to I know how that feels, and so I just want to make sure that I um as least amount as possible don't cause others to feel that way through my actions. So,
Mm.
of course, you self-care is important and positivity helps with that. But also aside from yourself, just imagining how your actions can help other people. I always try to put others above myself. And so whenever I feel that energy where it's like, I don't even feel like getting out of bed today, I don't even feel like, I think about once again, if I do, who's going to benefit from that possibly, if I
Yeah.
decide to do this, to do X or to do Y or Z, who might that help? And if I don't do these things, who might not um I have been able to help. It's always just thinking about, if you have a mindset of you're always thinking about other people, that will really enable you to keep going. If you have that mindset, and that's really what it's all about, is just really seeing how you can, because everything is cyclical. I always say this: there's two ways for everyone to have what they need. They can either all individually go and get it for themselves, or they can all pass around to someone else. If you're in a circle with 10 people and everyone passes a plate around, everyone is always going to receive a plate in return.
Right.
So that's something I always lived by. If you give, even if you don't receive, just at some point it'll come back to you negatively or positively based on your actions. And I live my life that way.
Man, yeah, I think that's incredible. And I think that like, in the world that we live in, it's very fast paced, very instant gratification, very, just about us. And like, obviously, like put yourself first and take care of yourself and everything. But I think sometimes we forget that like when we're more open to giving and we're not focused on what we're getting or what we're receiving or whatever it is, I think there's just like a shift that you feel. And like when you have that
Mhm.
mindset of like abundance of like, how can I give value to so and so, or how can I help someone? What can I do for others instead of what can I get? What can they give me? What can I
Right.
receive? I think it's a different kind of energy. And it just, like you said, it comes back in some way or another. And whether that's, you know, maybe people will call it law of attraction, maybe people will call it like good karma, maybe people just
Mhm.
call it energy. I think it's a very underrated thing that we don't always give credit to, but it's so important. And I mean, I see that impacted me in my life, and it sounds like it's something that has always resonated with you. So it's just kind of that reminder of like just give as much as you can, and just know that like even if you don't see like a quote unquote like return right away, it's gonna come back to you.
Absolutely. Totally agree, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love it. And maybe this kind of leads into this kind of conversation point of like when you put out Destination Restoration and stuff, and you said like the DJ at LCA reached out to you the next day and everything. And I mean, I've seen on social media like so many people have given you love and support for the track, whether it's just, oh, I listened to it, or I was at a Pistons game, like I heard it, it was sweet. They tag you in videos or whatnot. Like, did
Yeah.
you think that you would get that kind of reception that quickly from so many people, whether it's like the organization itself or just like random fans, followers, friends? Like, did you think that it would be like that right away?
No, not at
Okay.
all.
Yeah.
And that sounds like the cliche answer, right? Of
Right.
course. But I really didn't think it was going to happen, especially that quickly. It
Yeah.
was cool though, just to be reminded of how many Pistons fans there actually are.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I can kind of get lost, especially when the team isn't playing that well. We live in a world where attention spans are very short.
Right.
So if things aren't going well at this particular time, their attention is drawn to the next thing. But there are a lot of loyal Pistons fans, and not even just Pistons fans, but just Detroit sports fans in general.
Right.
And so that was really encouraging for me, because that told me that I need to do more.
Yeah.
There needs to be more music. People are thirsting for this type of music and this type of energy. And so it really caught me off guard, bro. I didn't expect it to happen the way it did, especially as quickly as it happened.
Mm-hmm.
With the playing, with basically virtually, when you think about it, every NBA player in the league has heard this record, because every
Right.
NBA player has been to LCA to play a game.
Yeah.
So that's the incredible part, is just the reach
Mm-hmm.
that this has had. I never thought it would happen this way. And once again, man, that's not even for me. It's just the fact that my people here, who I feel needed the most, are benefiting from that. Like that, I can't overstate that.
Yeah.
Because I've been here through the dog years when the Pistons weren't good. And,
Right.
they got 20 wins, and it's like, man, do I even want to watch this game? Do I even want to endure this potential blowout? But it's like you love your team.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where you're upset about it, but you still can't turn away from it.
Exactly.
So that's the beautiful part. So yeah, to answer your question, no, I didn't think it would be like this, but I have to credit a few people.
Yeah.
I have to credit, because I couldn't have done this without them. So I want to give a shout out to Carl Collins. He's the video editor of Destination Restoration and Baton, and pretty much everything else I'm going to be doing going forward. He puts together videos with all the highlights, Pistons highlights, for all of
Mm-hmm.
the videos that I do, and I couldn't have done this without him. And he's amazing. He does work for the Lions. He does all types of stuff, and he's incredible. So I have to give him a shout out for sure. And then also, one of my closest friends who actually did the production of the music for the song for Destination Restoration. We
Okay.
actually track the instrumental. Her name is Amani Presley, and she's from North Carolina. She's actually a Grammy-nominated producer
Wow.
in her own right. So she's it just the team that I have, bro. I'm nothing without them. I'm just the voice behind everything else, but we're all as important as the next person. And I just wanted to give them some love, because this doesn't happen. This phone call doesn't even happen without their help and support.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I really appreciate that shout out. And yeah, definitely, if you're listening, to anyone listening, go give them some love. That's awesome
For
that
sure.
you've been able to put together such a great team. And I think I'm fairly certain that Carl's how I even heard of your song in the first place. Just from checking out his like all of the work that he does with video and stuff. And then he's like, oh yeah, I worked on this project, and then I gave it a listen, and that's when I was like, man, look,
Right.
this dude's legit. Like he's got it. Whatever it is, you've got it. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think that's awesome. So huge shout out to everyone on your team.
For sure.
I am curious though. So, with the reception that you received for Destination Restoration, how much love you gotten from it and everything, do you feel any sort of pressure for anything else that you put out moving forward?
I wouldn't say pressure. I would
Okay.
just say motivation.
Okay.
thankfully music is something that comes easy to me.
Yeah.
And that's really what it's about. It's more so just I'm going to be doing music anyway. I'm going to be talking Detroit Pistons anyway, regardless of, so why not make it something that, everyone around can really enjoy.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's not really pressure. I do understand that, people have different genres that they like more than others and that they
Sure.
like, different things of that nature. But if I keep it focused on the sport itself, lyrically, I think people will still get behind it because there's not really a market for that right now. There's not
Right.
really a lot of musicians who are focused on that. And I totally get it. I totally get it. Everyone has different passions and desires. Every musician isn't a Pistons fan,
Right.
so I totally understand it. But I would say less pressure, but just more motivation,
Yeah.
just because I see um the positive effect that it's having. So it's like, okay, there is no pressure. They love it. This is great. They love it more than I could have dreamed or imagined that they would. So
Hmm.
let me continue to do this for them. Let me continue to do my little part in this whole cog, right?
Right.
Of just helping other people. So I do understand that there are people who may not, who may not like it necessarily. That they may like the lyrics, but they don't like the music, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. Um, but regardless of that, I'm going to still continue to do it
Hmm.
because as long as I continue to get overall feedback from others, that kind of stuff makes my day. I
Yeah.
heard the song when you reached out to me. When we got a chance to meet up at the game. It was cool
Yeah.
to meet you in person finally. But
Right.
but it was that kind of stuff makes my day, man. That's to me, that I get the same amount of joy from that kind of stuff as I do from actually crafting the music. So it's never pressure, man. It's always
Yeah.
just motivation to continue to be better and to
Yeah.
continue to help my people. That's really what it is for me.
I mean, I think that's the best answer you could have given me. That's kind of what I was hoping you would say. I understand why there might be a perception that people might be like, oh, like, that's pressure, or, like, aren't you worried about, quote unquote, being like a one hit wonder type thing? And I get that. Like,
Right.
that makes sense. And like you mentioned earlier, people have short attention spans. So it's, it kind of makes sense that that's kind of the world we live in. But I
Mhm.
don't think you should feel any pressure. And it's good that you don't, because like, I think you've resonated with a community and a crowd that are just, they're behind the city, the team, and you're just kind of giving like an anthem. And I think that as
Right.
long as you're doing that, like you're gonna get reception. And like you said, maybe the next track, like not everyone's resonated with, or they're like, like I like the other one better. I mean, at the end of the day, you're gonna have a lot of people still behind you. And I think the most important thing is like you're doing what you love and
Right.
you're combining those passions. And I think you're definitely one of those people that it's like if one person says like, man, like this song was awesome, like I got so excited for it, or like me and my family or my best friend, like we were going to the game and we listened to it on the drive in. Like if you get one compliment like that, I think that in your mind that tells you it's worth it. Like it doesn't matter if everyone else hates it. It's just that one
Absolutely.
person that you impacted. That's all that you're in it for.
Absolutely, man. And I've been blessed. I've actually had a chance to talk to DJ Chachi
Yeah,
about it, and he's mentioned to me that a lot of the players, which is why they actually signed off on playing it at the arena. A lot of the players love the song,
that's
because the
awesome.
song is tailored. There's pretty much a line in there for pretty much all of the main players.
Yeah,
And so, they loved it. I've had a chance to talk with Jaden Ivey's father. He's told me he's played the song on the way to the arena. I've talked to Isaiah Stewart. He said he loves the song. So I've had a chance to talk to a lot of players. Case Cunningham's family has really helped me and gotten behind me and supported me with the record and things like that. So it's been beautiful, man. So things like
yeah,
that, because when you think about it, I also would. It's a great feeling to know that maybe your record, is really motivating the team to go out and have a great game.
yeah.
That's powerful. That's
It
powerful stuff
is.
for especially for a basketball fan like myself. For
Right.
myself, of course, you don't want to. It's not about any one individual, but just to know that might be something that may give them a little bit of an extra push.
Right.
Just to go out and play hard and put on a good show for everybody who's there, who's put their hard-earned money towards buying tickets and just being able to
Hmm.
have a great experience.
Definitely. And I think the cool thing that like I don't want us to like lose track of it. And maybe like if you're listening to this and you're not a big Pistons fan, you might not know this, but like our current team right now, it's a lot of young up and coming players. So it's like, if you're LeBron, sure, I'm sure you're used to hearing your name in songs and lyrics, for
Right.
years, and Drake or whatever is dropping, your name. But like for a lot of our team, it's like you're really just giving spotlight to those young guys who I'm sure like they're like, oh my gosh, like I just made it to the league and like I'm in a song now and it's getting played at every game and stuff. Like, I mean, that has to probably be super awesome for the players too. So it's
That's
kind of one of
true.
those things that I just think is cool. It's like, you know, when you think maybe if you're not from Detroit or you're not from, you think of the Pistons and you're like, oh, like they drafted Cade. Like who else do they have? Like I don't know. Like you can't even list players, but like you
Right.
said, you have like lines for almost every player, and like it's just like giving those players the recognition that they deserve. I
Absolutely.
wholeheartedly believe like we have a great team. We have a great core, like on and off the
Yes.
court, just a great future. So I think that's
Yeah.
cool that like they're hearing their name and stuff. And I think like you said, that probably amps them up a little bit. They're like, all right, like let's go get that win today.
Yeah, man. And you hit it on the head though when you said we have a great team, because we have great people, not just great players. Troy Weaver, the GM, the guy
Yeah.
who actually is in charge of drafting these players, he always says the thing that he looks for is he's looking for character guys. He's looking for great basketball players, but
Hmm.
he's looking for great people.
Yeah.
So that resonates with me. And so like you mentioned, just to be able to um, do whatever I can, in the form of music, even before games, and then hear it and things of that nature. That means a lot to me. It
Yeah.
means a lot to me that I can even, if just a little bit, have some kind of impact mentally on a player that I love to watch,
Hmm.
and watch play basketball for sure.
Yeah. So you mentioned that in the song, you have, pretty much a line for almost all the players. Do you have a favorite line that you wrote for that song?
Oh man, that's tough. You know what? I've never been asked that question before. That's a really good question. I would say, hmm. Let me think about it for a second. I would probably say the Kay Cunningham line. Um, I said breaking records set by Michael J. Um, and then I said bringing glory back to the future. Michael J.
Yeah.
Referring to Michael J. Fox.
Yep.
So I thought that was kind of a cool play on words. The Michael J. Michael Jordan, and then Michael J. Michael Fox, Michael J. Fox. So that would probably be one of my favorites. It's tough, man, because I
Yeah.
put a lot of time. I put a lot of time into. I wanted to make sure that when they heard it, it felt personal. It felt
Yeah.
something that they could personally, to say, oh, he really thought about that. Oh, I didn't even know he knew that about me. Oh, I didn't even know that. I didn't know how did he know that? That's cool.
Right.
That kind of stuff. So I would say that one.
Okay.
Because yeah, just I'm a huge Kay Cunningham fan. He's my favorite,
Right.
one of my favorite players in the league. And it's kind of funny because I actually knew about his older brother before I knew about him.
Really?
Quick story. So shout out to Cannon Cunningham. That's Kay Cunningham's older brother. And
Yeah.
shout out to Ashton. That's his cousin as well, who they both show me a lot of love. But Cannon Cunningham is referred to a lot by his family as the original Cunningham phenom.
Okay.
And so I got a chance to know him because he played college basketball. So the reason I even know who he is because when the Pistons won the championship, Larry Brown was their coach in
Right.
2004. So ever
Right.
since that point, I followed Larry Brown wherever he went. And one of his stops after that was SMU, which is Southern Methodist University.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm watching their team and I see this guy, this young player is tall because Cannon's a little bit taller than Cade. He's about 6'10", 6'11". And I'm watching him play and he's got a really smooth game, so he grabbed my attention inadvertently just from watching Larry Brown. And so when Cannon finished his career there, I didn't really hear much about him after that because he didn't go pro.
Right.
He had the opportunity and talent, but he never decided to go pro. He wanted to be more of a teacher and a mentor and a coach
Yeah.
to his younger brother, so who I didn't know yet. So a couple years ago, I see this young guy playing for Oklahoma State who looks a lot like Cannon Cunningham.
Yeah.
His game is very similar to Cannon Cunningham, even though they play different positions. And his last name is Cunningham. So I looked him up and saw the connection and it made sense. So when Cade got drafted here, it was perfect for me
Yeah.
because I already had history with his family. I already loved watching his brother play. I loved watching who his brother played for in Larry Brown. So that was beautiful for me to be able to have it kind of come full circle and to
Yeah.
get a chance to, get to know not only Cade but Cannon,
Yeah.
because that was the original connection. So that was pretty big for me. That was pretty cool.
I love that. That's awesome. It's cool how you said like it just came full circle.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you hear that and like this is the first time I've ever heard that story, and I'm just sitting here like, man, like it's almost like it was always meant to happen like this. You know
Right.
what I mean? It's just crazy. It's like one of those like you get chills from it. Wow, that's
For sure.
wild.
For sure. Yeah, and it's funny because Kate's nickname growing up was Deuce,
Okay.
and his father's name is Keith. What are
Yeah.
the odds?
That see exactly like when you add that stuff to it, you're like, man, that's wild. I love that so much. And I mean, for the line that you mentioned, like that's I love the whole song, so it's hard to pick for me too. But that's probably my favorite line. And the first time I heard you say that, I was like, oh my gosh, like that I was not expecting that, but I was like, that's fire. I love that. So
Yeah, appreciate it.
I love that reference to MJ and Back to the Future. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, so you mentioned kind of just there with Cade's nickname being Deuce, and of course your artist name and how a lot of people know you in the community is Downtown Deuce. Where did that name come from for you?
Yeah. So I was born and raised here. I was born in Detroit.
Hmm.
Lived in Detroit for some time. So that's where the downtown part came from. I
Right.
love being downtown. And downtown Detroit has not always been what it is today.
Right.
For a long time, downtown Detroit was an area that you drive through
Hmm.
and not somewhere that you actually go to have an experience or enjoy an event. So I've always loved the downtown area despite that. So that's where the downtown part came from, and the Deuce part came from. I've been doing music for a long time, so one of my stage names musically is K Deuce. The K standing for Keith, and the
Yep.
Deuce obviously. The Deuce part coming because I'm the second of two sons. I have an older brother,
Okay.
and so I'm the second, and I kind of just like the Deuce part. So people just started calling me Deuce, and that's where that came from. So I figured for the brand that I have now, when it comes to Detroit Pistons, why not combine it so that it makes sense,
Yeah.
right? It's from a branding standpoint. So, I threw some ideas around. Detroit Deuce. That didn't really, that was kind of bland to me. So I said, let's try something a little different. Since we're going to be downtown a lot, especially with the Pistons, playing down there now, right,
Yeah.
and not in Albert Hills anymore. It just kind of came together one day. I think I was in my room listening to music, and it just kind of came to me, and it kind of just stuck. And I asked some people around, what do they think? What do you think is that? If is it corny or not? Let me know. Is it corny? And they said, no, I like it. I asked some people, and they said they like it. So I said, okay, let's go with it, and it kind of just stuck.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I think it sounds great, Downtown Deuce. I think it really epitomizes kind of this direction that you're going in with the music, and again, just kind of it gives people that kind of like I guess name or that figure to really get behind with the music and with the city and with the Pistons. So
Right.
I think it sounds good. I think it works well.
Yeah, I'm glad you signed off on it, bro.
Yeah, I'm happy to for sure. Awesome. So, you mentioned that you've always been a Pistons fan, through the different eras, if you will, that we've had. Um, I know it's probably tough, but like, do you have like a favorite team that the Pistons have had or favorite era of the Pistons?
Uh, yeah, I was younger when they won the back-to-back championships. Isaiah Thomas is my favorite Piston of all time.
Okay.
I'll say that. Even though I was a little boy, I'm 36, so I'm probably a little bit older than most think. But so I was around. I was a little boy during the '80s watching them win their
Hmm.
championships. The one I remember mostly is the second of the two when they beat the Portland Trail Blazers. I just remembered how hard they played. Um, they played as if it was their last game they were going to play. They always left it on the floor, you know.
Yeah.
But what I remember the most is the going to work Pistons in 2004, the team with Chauncey and Ben and Rasheed and Richard Hamilton and Tayshaun Prince and all those guys.
Hmm.
That's the team that really resonates with me because the one of the best years of my life was my graduation year was also in 2004,
Okay.
the same year that they won the championship. So that's something that I will always remember and never forget. So that would probably say that was my favorite team because I saw them grow from 2001, getting bounced in the first round, 2002, bounced in the second round, 2003, bounced in the conference finals. But each year they got better and better and better and better, culminating into the championship in 2004. So I would say that's probably my favorite team for sure. But that's also why, what I mean when I say I've witnessed our Pistons teams when they weren't good.
Yeah.
And then I saw them slowly, continuously get better. And that's what I'm seeing right now. I'm seeing it happen all over again with the team that started from, the relative bottom and growing and getting better and better and better. But yeah, my favorite team is the 2004 Pistons team, man, for many reasons.
Okay.
Just the camaraderie they had.
Yeah.
Larry Brown being the coach.
Yep.
And how they just played for one another. It was never any agenda. It was never, I got to score X amount of points or I'm not happy. It was never, I'm not getting enough touches. It was never that. It was all about winning and all about playing for each other. And that to me is what basketball is. And they epitomize that.
I love that. You of course mentioned that Isaiah Thomas is your favorite Piston of all time. What about for those the 2000s, 2004 team? Like who'd you say your favorite Piston on that team was?
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get asked this question all the time, and I never have a good answer for it. It would be between and Chauncey Billups.
Okay.
I played point guard when I was in high school, so that's why I'm kind of I'm kind of partial to Chauncey.
Yeah.
Because that's what he played. Just watching the way he was a floor general.
Mm-hmm.
He never got sped up. He never. He always led. He was always a leader. He was always the general that the team would look to when things would get tough. Balanced. He never let him get too high. Never let him get too low.
Right.
So I would say that he was the heart of the team, but I would say Ben Wallace was the soul. I've never seen a player play as hard as Ben Wallace plays.
Right.
Ever in my life. Just possession. If he's on the floor, he's going to give you 1,000%. And so, he epitomized what Detroit basketball was more than anybody in that team. So I can't pick one. I'm sorry, but
it's okay.
It would be those two, Chauncey and Ben Wallace for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean that team was loaded. So like
Yeah.
you could have said anyone, and I would have been like, yeah, that makes sense. Like I'm cool with that.
Right.
But no, like that's that's when I really fell in love with the Pistons and basketball. I'm 26, so that was the early 2000s when I first kind of was exposed to the Pistons and NBA. And like, I mean, I just remember, man, like watching that team and going out in the driveway and trying to, shoot threes like Mr. Big Shot, or back someone down in the post like Big Ben, or just ball don't lie. Like anytime you're playing, just get that perfect Sheed catchphrase, and try to do chase down blocks like Tayshaun would, or just have that, just go get a bucket like Rip. I mean, like that team was just legendary. So that's definitely the team that I remember. And I mean, I wasn't around for the bad boys, but just being able to know about our team's history and to watch clips or highlights, or there's that documentary about the bad boys. I think it was ESPN that did it. It was just like, it's just really cool to see the history, and like you said, just to kind of see now the direction that our team's going now. It's just an exciting time to be a Pistons fan.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. Yeah, it's in order to know where you're going, you got to know where you've been.
Exactly.
You got to pay homage to those that come before us. There is no Pistons defensive identity that we have now without those who established it and put it into place. So yeah, absolutely, I'm with you on that one for sure. I mean, we gotta pay homage to those who really set the groundwork. For what we have now, and that's what they did.
Yeah, and I know you said that you're pretty good at kind of like seeing the teams kind of develop and seeing the trend that they're going and everything. So, I'm not going to hold you to it or anything, but what would be like where do you think we're at right now with the Pistons? Like, how far off do you think that team might be from, being a serious championship contender? Like, I guess just what's your general thoughts about the Pistons right now and the direction that they're moving?
Yeah, for sure. So I think we have a lot of young talent, right? one of the most important things you need to do when you're trying to build a team is have culture, you know.
Yeah.
And so I think Troy Weaver, who is the GM, is really really establishing that culture, that camaraderie, that defense first, that maturity. And you understand with young teams, you're gonna have heartache, you're gonna have growing pains, you're gonna
Hmm.
have those things. That's how they continue to grow. But in order for something to last, it takes time to build, and so that's why I'm seeing the slow process. I'm seeing the players that are being brought in. I'm seeing the young talent we have, but of course, Kay Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duran. Guys, when you have guys that want to be here and are not just here for a paycheck, they'll play a little bit harder for you.
Hmm.
So you see Kay Cunningham, how much he wants to be here. You see Jaden Ivey, who has family ties here.
Right.
You see Jalen Duran, who was coached by Larry Brown, who was coached by Rasheed Wallace in college. All these Detroit connections with these guys, they want to be here. And so that's one of the biggest things that I see from this young team. Now it's just a matter of, like any relationship or any business or whatever it is your endeavor you're doing, you got to build chemistry. You got to get
Yeah.
reps in, and that takes time. So I would say the Pistons, they're a few years away because the league right now is at an all-time high from a talent standpoint,
Right.
right? But everyone has to wait their turn. And so right now the Pistons have the talent is not the issue.
Right.
It's just a matter of being able to put it together and going through those losses and going through the heartache and going through those growing pains, making mistakes. Mistakes are great. Mistakes are great
Right.
because without mistakes, you never learn. So it's inevitable to success is mistakes. Failure is inevitable with success. So I would say the Pistons, after this season, is when I expect them to really push for the playoffs. I thought that may happen this season, but with Cade Cunningham's injury,
Yeah.
he's our most important player. So he's our engine. So without him, it was going to be tough. But I think after this season, I see us really making a push for the playoffs next year. And I see us being very reminiscent of that 2001, 2002 Pistons team, young Pistons team, who were on the rise to
Yeah.
success and the glory.
Yeah. I love that. I think that that's great. And, anytime I talk to, people about the Pistons and everything, and again, maybe I'm a little biased from just my age and just like that, the 2000s Pistons team that I remember watching. But honestly, like when I think about the Pistons team that we have now, I can't help but think back to like the 2000s team where it's like, you can argue there's differences in play style and stuff, but I think like Cade, like you said, floor general, like reminds me of Chauncey. I
Mm-hmm.
think of like Ivy now, just he's just a natural scorer. Just he looks so
Yep.
effortless when he has the ball and when he tries to get a bucket. So that makes me think of like Rip, and then I think of just Duran, just his defensive just blocks, rebounds, everything like Big Ben, and
Yeah.
with Isaiah Stewart kind of working on his three ball and being more of an offensive player
Mm-hmm.
with that intense defense and just kind of that intense kind of like personality. That makes me think of Sheed,
Yep.
and maybe we might be missing that wing piece that I'm thinking of for like that Tayshaun comparison, but I
Right.
know that we'll get that. And even like I loved Lindsey Hunter growing up. Like he
Oh
was
yeah.
a huge, like I just loved watching him play. I was a huge fan of his, and like that's kind of like honestly where I see like Killian coming in, like having that like
Exactly.
Lindsey Hunter role. Like he's not going to drop you like 30 points every night or anything, but he's going to come off the bench. He can start if you need him to. He's going to lead the team. He's going to be really solid defensively.
Mm-hmm.
And like he'll surprise you. Like next thing you know, he's putting up 20 and you're like, okay, we didn't really
Right.
expect that tonight, but like he can do it. And just Lindsey Hunter, Killian Hayes, I think those are the kind of players that like they do so much more than the stat sheet will show you.
Right.
And they're kind of like a motor, heart and soul of the team too.
That's a great point because no championship team starts 5 superstars.
Exactly.
They all have a
Exactly.
role. Tayshaun Prince was never an all-star,
Right.
right, in his career, but he was one of the most important players. You mentioned it, the block.
Yeah.
The defense that he played on Kobe Bryant in the
Mm-hmm.
finals is very understated.
Yeah.
So everyone, and that's what I meant when I talked about guys playing for each other and there being no agendas.
Yeah.
Is that everyone understands that they have a role, and to just be a star in your role.
Exactly.
You don't find that in every basketball player. You don't find that, So that's why when Troy said he wants to bring in great people,
Hmm.
that's a necessity, because you need people who have that character to understand that I may not have the role that I had in college,
Right.
but if it's going to result in me being a champion, who cares?
Exactly.
So yeah, that's why I love where we're at as a team right now. It sounds like you know your basketball too, man. I'm a little impressed. You
I
know about the
appreciate
Lindsey
it.
Hunter.
Yeah, man. I love my basketball, especially the Pistons. So I pride myself on being pretty knowledgeable for sure.
Yeah, for sure, bro. I like it.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure. And just on the topic of, I just threw out a bunch of players' names and stuff. I have to just take a second to give some love to my dude. I'm so high on Isaiah Livers. I think he's going to be fantastic.
Oh
So
yeah.
shout out to Livers, because I think, like you said, he's one of those players who, he was a star at Michigan, and he has a much lesser role now. But I mean, every time I see him play, I feel like he's going all in. And I know he's been out, in his time in the league. He's had some injuries, but I mean, his defense is fantastic. He can shoot the three.
Right.
He's a culture guy. He's kind of a glue guy to me. So,
Hmm.
Pistons fans, don't sleep on Livers. I think he's going to be a key piece moving forward with this team.
Absolutely. No, you hit it. We talked about Tayshaun Prince.
Yeah,
About missing not having a wing. We just lost a Dick Bay. It looks
right.
like
Yeah,
So this presents an opportunity for a homegrown guy to really step in, and he does a lot of the same things that Tayshaun Prince does as
exactly.
well. When you think about it,
Yeah,
he may even be a better shooter than Tayshaun Prince was,
right.
and just his ability to play defense, to play for others, to move the ball, to move without the ball.
Mm-hmm.
The little things, the things that you need, to make sure that the offense is and defense is working properly.
Yeah,
And that's to make it easier on your stars. Doing the things, exerting the energy. You know, maybe that means guarding the best player, so
right.
that way K doesn't have to. So K can give you what he needs offensively. Things like that,
Exactly.
like you said, that don't show up on the stat sheet, the intangibles.
Right.
Isaiah Livers is the epitome of an intangible guy.
Yeah,
You need guys like that. Every championship team has guys like that. You look at just the last couple years with teams that have won championships. Draymond Green isn't the superstar for
right.
the Golden State Warriors, but they won the championship last year. PJ Tucker wasn't the superstar for the Milwaukee Bucks, but
Right.
they needed him to win the championship. So
Exactly.
every team needs one or two guys like that. And the Pistons, they have guys like that now. So we'll see what happens in the offseason,
Yeah.
because we also do have pretty much more cap space than pretty much any team in the league this
Mm-hmm.
offseason to go and sign perhaps that other guy that we were talking about. So the future is bright, man, for this young Pistons team.
It is. And I think the thing that, like, you've touched on a lot is just like the culture and the chemistry building, and what Weaver's doing as the GM. And I think it's like we now have this cap space coming up. And I mean, a few years ago, you probably couldn't pay someone to come to Detroit to play. But now with
Right.
what we're doing, like, I truly believe the Pistons are fully able to get a really big established player if they really want, and if Weaver thinks that they're the right fit, because I think Detroit's becoming the place where they'll want to play and they'll want to win a ring.
Absolutely. You'll have
Yeah.
guys who look at this team. You'll have guys who may not be superstars, but the star caliber players. They'll watch this team. They'll like what they see from the front office down to the players, and they'll say, man, if they had me on their team,
Yeah.
you think about even with the Lions,
Mm-hmm.
the culture that they're building,
Yeah.
winning, what was it, 6 of the last 7 games, 7 of the last 8 games.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah, and now you have players who are looking. Wow, I wonder what it's like to play over there.
Right.
I'd like to play. I'd like to play for that coach, for Coach
Yeah.
Campbell. The culture once
Yeah.
again that's being set, and so, like you mentioned, I think the Pistons are building that as well, because if you pay attention, Troy Weaver and Brad Holmes, the GM for the Lions,
Mm-hmm.
they spend time together.
They do. Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they share notes,
Yeah.
about what they're doing, because they're building these teams in similar ways.
Mm-hmm.
If you pay attention. So
Yeah.
yeah, the Detroit sports is looking good, man.
It
Future's
is.
looking good for us. Exciting time to be a Detroit fan.
I agree 100%. One of the last things that I want to ask you before we wrap things up is just we're talking about the Pistons and everything. We're talking about the future, and we just kind of touched on what the offseason is going to look like. Do you have like a player in mind in the league that you would love for them to go out and sign, or is there a prospect that you would love for them to draft if the opportunity comes? Like, are there any players that come to mind for you on those?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the elephant in the room in the draft
Yeah,
is Victor Wembanyama.
yeah,
You know, the 7'4" unicorn that
right.
everybody seems to be tanking to try to get, or position. I won't say tanking, but positioning
Yeah,
themselves to try to have a shot at getting. It's only a 14% chance for the worst team to even
right,
get him, so there's no guarantee.
right.
But if you add him to this team, sometimes I don't even like to torture myself like that. Because I don't want to set myself up for disappointment. But when you're a glutton for punishment, sometimes you do that. So
Yeah, yeah,
but yeah, he would be an amazing piece. He would solve so many problems
oh yeah,
for this team offensively and defensively. You wouldn't be able to double team virtually anybody
right.
by adding a guy like him. So yeah, and there's a couple other guys in the draft. Scoot Henderson, Brandon
Mm-hmm.
Miller, who's a great
Yep,
shooter.
yep,
I'm high on Brandon Miller. He could potentially be that guy we were talking about, that
yeah,
wing player, that 3D guy, that
yep,
intangible guy. So I like him. Um, as far as the free agent market, there were a couple guys I had in mind, but they already got scooped up. I was looking at Cam Johnson for
yeah,
Phoenix Suns. He's a great defender,
yep,
great shooter, plays hard, team guy, high energy. Got somebody like him is who I would
yeah,
like to add. Maybe a Mikal Bridges type player who also
yeah,
just got traded. It seems like Phoenix just surrendered all their defense for
yeah,
for the trade, but I understand it. But somebody like that, a wing, because if you
yeah,
look at the East is filled with wing players and big men.
yeah,
That's what the East is now. You look at the two best teams in the East, Boston and Milwaukee. They got twin towers on both of those teams.
yeah,
With Williams and Horford for the Celtics, and then with Giannis and Brook Lopez for the Bucks. They,
mm-hmm.
the great teams have that now. The
Yeah,
league is kind of going back in that direction.
right.
So, being able to have a guy that can at least make life somewhat difficult on a Giannis, or
Yeah,
somewhat difficult on a Jason Tatum, or somewhat difficult on a Joel Embiid,
yeah,
you know, some that's going to go a long way as far as us really being able to break through.
mm-hmm.
But I think we're set as far as our front court, at
Yeah,
least for right now. We'll see what happens with James Wiseman.
yeah,
You
yep,
know, hopefully he can turn it around. He didn't really get the opportunity in Golden State
right.
because of the timeline, just because they were trying to win right now.
Yeah,
So coming here to a team that is going to give him a little bit more leeway. He
mm-hmm.
won't be looking to the bench every time he makes a mistake. Am I going to come out now? Things like
Right.
that. He'll be able to play through those mistakes. But getting back to your question, that's what I'm looking for primarily in the free agent market, in the draft, is just finding a wing or a big, preferably a wing that can spread the floor for Cade Cunningham,
Yep,
because that's what Cade needs, right?
yep,
Because he has the vision to find whoever's open.
yeah,
Um, Having somebody like that is what I think would do wonders for our team. So that's what I'm looking forward to Troy Weaver doing this
yep.
offseason, and really making his money even more in this offseason, really just finding that guy or guys that's going to
Yeah.
help this team to be able to be more balanced.
Awesome, man. I couldn't agree more with you on that take. Obviously, like you said, elephant in the room. Wembanyama would be fantastic. I too don't want to punish myself with that. I'm very happy we have Cade, but I will say that I punished myself by really, really getting on the LaMelo Ball train a few years ago. So
Yeah,
that devastated me when we didn't get him, but it worked out because we have Cade, and
right.
I love Ball, but I think I'd rather have Cade, to be honest.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so I don't want to get my hopes up too high for that, but he'd be fantastic. Scoot, obviously, if Victor wasn't there, he'd probably be the clear front runner. And
Yep.
I think Miller, like you said, fantastic player, and it seems like he would be just a good fit for Detroit. He might not be the top player to other teams, but
Right.
for what the Pistons need and what his skill set is, I think he could be fantastic. So I love that, and I think you brought up some good points with people to potentially sign, and just again thinking back to how the game of basketball is ever evolving, right? Like we both saw the Big Ben, the Sheet era, and then of course other teams with like Shaq, Tim Duncan, players like that, and then it kind of shifted to the stretch bigs, and
Right.
all your centers have to be able to shoot a three ball, to going back to maybe more of that. There's a big value on those big men. So like you
Right.
said, I'm excited to see what Wiseman does, assuming that all works out and
Yeah.
he is coming to Detroit. I guess I haven't seen the update on that, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited for that, and I think the future is bright, and it's the best time to be a Detroit sports fan, whether it's the Pistons or just all the city. I think we have a lot to get excited about, so super stoked for that.
Absolutely, man. And just the city of Detroit in general, just
Yeah.
downtown. It's been a beautiful thing to see just how the city has really evolved downtown.
Yeah.
It's the place to be now.
It
You
is.
know, I never would have thought that 10 years ago,
Right.
and now it's just a beautiful thing. There's rumblings that there may be an all-star game here. Don't quote me, but there's rumblings that there may be an
Yeah.
all-star game here at some point. But one of the holdups that appears to be is just not having enough hotels,
Right.
for guests when they come here. But other than that,
Right.
that would be the main holdup for something like that. Just to be in the conversation for something
Yeah.
like that just shows you how far the city has come from an
Exactly.
economical and financial standpoint, as far as being, somewhere to really go for some event like that.
Exactly. It's huge, and I'm just excited to see, how the city continues to flourish. But
Right.
no, man, it's been really great getting to talk to you, and to anyone that's been listening to the podcast and they want to, follow along with your journey, check out your music, check out the new projects when they come out and everything. What's like the best place for people to connect with you or to check out everything you got going on?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I'm actually building a website now. It's not quite up yet. I'll have more
Okay.
details on that to come. But that's in the works. But you can find me on just Downtown Deuce. You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. All your networks. You can socials.
Yep.
You can find me on there. And and if you follow, I do follow back.
Awesome. And then you mentioned earlier you're on your Apple's, Spotify,
Yeah,
Amazon, all those big ones.
Yeah, all the platforms, Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, Tidal, pretty much anywhere you like to go to search for music, you can find the song there for sure.
Okay, sweet. So I will go ahead and I'm gonna put all the socials and just kind of like where on the different music apps where you can find Keith or Deuce, however you want to refer to him. And whenever the website is up and running, I'll just come back and I'll add that to the description of the episode too. So maybe when you see this episode, there won't be a website. Maybe there will, but we'll keep it up to date no matter what.
It's coming soon.
There we go. It's coming soon. So we'll get that for you. And I mean, if you go to a Pistons game, be on the lookout or be on the listen for the song. And if you hear it, shoot him a message, tag him. I'm sure he'd love to hear it and see it, and just a cool kind of that full circle moment. So definitely, reach out to Deuce. He's a great guy, and he's doing some great things for the city.
Appreciate
so
it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, of course.
And if anybody's ever at a game and I'm there, just come find me, come text me, DM me, ask, find out where I'm sitting. I'll come to you. I love meeting my fellow Detroit, my Detroiters, not even just Pistons fan, but just my fellow Detroiters. So
I love it. Yeah, and I'm glad that we had last game, whenever that was, like a month ago or something. We had the chance to link up in person finally. It was a long time coming, so it was nice.
Right. Yeah, for sure. You got it
awesome.
done.
Yeah, awesome. And any last thoughts or words that you want to give to anyone listening to us today?
No, man. Just I appreciate you having me on, man. This was fun. This was enjoyable. Looking forward to first of all, thank you for everyone who's here today, who's tuned in with my man. And just looking forward to continuing to grow with everybody. If anybody wants to reach out to me, please reach out. If anybody has any ideas for music, reach out, because this is all about, it's not about me, it's about those who are listening to the message and to the music. So I'm always open to ideas. Hey, we should do a Lion song, or you should do a Red Wing song, or you should do a Tiger song, whatever it is. I'm game for it. So, I'm doing this for everybody. I'm doing this for the city. So I would love everybody's feedback, and I truly, truly appreciate everybody's support for sure.
Awesome, man. I love that. It's been a pleasure having you on, man. It's a pleasure to be able to get to you and call you a friend. And you know, I
For
just,
sure.
as someone that has lived my life in Michigan and has grown up as a Detroit sports fan and taken it into my adult life, you know, I just have a lot of respect for you and really appreciate what you're doing for the city. Not even from a sports standpoint, but just the city in itself, just bringing back, you know, the city that we all love and showing the rest of the world that Detroit is a place to come to, and it's a place that is flourishing and growing. And you know, I just I really appreciate what you're doing for the city. So keep it up, man. I'm
Thank
excited
you.
to follow along on your journey. You know, I'm always in your corner. I'm always here to support you with anything you need, man. But I know
For
that you're
sure.
going to be doing some big things, and I can't wait to see.
Thank you, man. I appreciate your support, bro.
Yeah,
And if anything you need, man, you know, just say the word. I got you.
I got you too, man. All right, dude. You have a good one. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you, bro. Talk to you soon.
All right, bye.